Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the South Haven City Council for Monday, July the 15th, 2019. I'd like to call this meeting in order. And the person that was going to do invocation is off at the beach or something fun, so let's observe a moment of silence, please. Thank you. If you'll now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, roll call. Travis.
Chris Campbell, Clark Gruber, Joe Reeser,
Here.
Steve Schlock,
Here.
George Sleeper,
Here.
Letitia Wilkins,
Here.
Scott Smith.
Here.
I'd like to make a motion to excuse council members Campbell and Gruber.
Second.
Motion a second to excuse council members Campbell and Gruber. All those in favor say aye. Aye. They're excused. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion a second to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Thank you. Consent agenda, items A through I.
I'll make a motion for the consent agenda, items A through I.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Council discussion? Public questions? Seeing none. This is a roll call vote.
Reeser,
Yes.
Schlock,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. Thank you. That takes us to old business. City Council will be asked to consider approval of Resolution 2019-35, a resolution approving an industrial facilities exemption certificate for HTS Direct at 1310 Kalamazoo Street.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2019-35, a resolution approving the industrial facilities exemption certificate for HTS Direct, 1310 Kalamazoo Street.
Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Brian, just want to remind us why we're doing this?
Members of council, this is for 1310 Kalamazoo Street. It's the former Applied Engineering facility. It was a long time associated with Bone Aluminum. For the past decade or longer, the site has been sitting largely vacant. Over the last year, the city actively recruited HTS Direct from their location in Grand Rapids. They are a German-based facility or manufacturer of equipment that's used by millwrights for heavy machine moving. What HTS Direct has done that is very unique is they actually have set up the equipment so it's essentially a drone. You're able to move it remotely using remote controls. It's a very slick operation. HTS is moving more and more of their sales and potentially logistics, and hopefully you'll actually see some manufacturing in the future of their products from Germany to the U.S. They have been at one point located in Ohio, then Grand Rapids, and we were able to get them to move here. Now, with that said, the facility has sat for a number of years with very little activity. It was in very much need of improvements. So HTS acquired the site and poured a little over $2 million into the site, and that includes building improvements such as a new roof. Several new commercial spaces are being created, as well as just overall building improvements. The IFT, the Industrial Facilities Tax Exemption Certificate, has a 12-year lifespan with an estimated value of about $228,000. The thing I would stress to council is this is not something that you're losing money on. The IFT is based on the improved values. We will continue collecting at that base value. If for whatever reason HTS does not conform with the IFT application, specifically that greater than $2 million total investment doesn't occur, then the city reserves the right to exercise a quote-unquote clawback agreement where you could go and actually claw back portions of that IFT or abatement. Now, with all of that said, the council hosted a public hearing at your last meeting. Action was tabled until tonight to allow us time to complete the terms of the clawback agreement. This has been reviewed by staff, by our outside economic development consultant, and by the city's attorney. It's ready for the council's consideration.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any public questions about this? How about council questions? So Brian, I always like to remind people, and you said it well, but when we do these exemptions, sometimes the question comes back, well, there are entities that are losing money in these cases. We're not getting money to go into a school or whatever the case. But just to be clear, this property has sat undeveloped at that base rate for years and years and years. And if it were to stay undeveloped, it would stay there.
Correct.
So by creating these incentives, we're saying, hey, invest, we'll give you some back. We're now elevating this value. And so for a period of time, they get money back. At the end of this, all these entities will see an elevation in tax value. And more importantly, we have the potential for job creation. The site looks a ton better, even torn up than it did for years. I mean, there's great improvement. So is that a fair, I mean, we want to create every incentive known to mankind to attract business, and this is just one tool.
Yeah, that's correct. And moreover, it's a tool that's established by state law. It's a tool that's being used by communities up and down the lake shore and across the state of Michigan. If you're not using the tool, communities or local businesses are going to move. So this is one that you should be using every tool in your toolbox. This is tried and true. City of South Haven has been very committed to the use of the IFT as a tool to try and retain businesses and occasionally attract businesses. This is a good example of trying to roll out the red carpet to get a company that's based in Grand Rapids to move down here. And I can tell you their operations manager has been living in South Haven now for the past several months. At one point, I even saw him helping to mow the yard at 1310 Kalamazoo. This is a good thing. It's a building that has been vacant. It's a building now that's getting major improvements. And we hope to see it as a nice addition to the tax roll after that 12-year abatement period.
Yep, very good. Appreciate it, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2019-35. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. New business. City Council will be asked to consider approval of Special Event 2019-21, Books and Songs 2019, to be held on August the 2nd, August the 16th, and August the 22nd, 2019, from 11:45 a.m. until 2 p.m. in the Riverfront Park.
I'll make a motion to approve special event 2019-21, Books and Songs 2019, to be held on August 2nd, August 16th, and August 22nd, 2019, from 11:45 a.m. until 2 p.m. at Riverfront Park.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All right. You guys are making me wait here. Okay. All right, motion is second. Mr. Doucette, what do we got?
So this is something that Heather Chalupa from South Haven Public Schools, this is going to be, I believe, her third year of returning the Books and Songs event to Riverfront Park. This is absolutely the definition of a family-friendly event. Volunteers from South Haven Public Schools will set up, they work with local nonprofits to hand out books to local school children. They also have a variety of activities from beating on drums to singing songs and other young people activity. I took my kids there last year, and each kid got a free lunch and a book. It was not loud. It was not in any way a burden on the city staff. We have hosted it now for several years. City staff has reviewed the application, has no concerns.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any public questions on this event? Nobody's here to show it off. Any council questions, comments? We'll just say thank you on behalf of the city council and staff for putting this on, to all those involved. Good stuff, like stuff for our kids to do in the summertime. So we have a motion and a second to approve special event 2019-21, Books and Songs 2019. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's approved. Next, City Council will be asked to consider approval of Resolution 2019-36, a resolution tentatively awarding a construction contract for the redevelopment of the Center Street project between William Street and Michigan Avenue and granting authority to execute the necessary loan documents.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2019-36, a resolution tentatively awarding a construction contract for the redevelopment of the Center Street project between William Street and Michigan Avenue and granting authority to execute the necessary loan documents.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. This is good stuff. Brian, tell us more.
So, members of council, previously you've taken action on paving the way for the reconstruction of Center Street, pardon the pun. The Center Street project is set pending council approval, pending final DDA approval, for construction to move into the Center Street area between William Street and Michigan Avenue at the end of summer, just after Labor Day. The intent is to work throughout the fall, winter, and then have this project wrapped by approximately Memorial Day 2020. So sitting here, I can tell you the good news on this is the approvals between the state of Michigan, between the MEDC, between the city, the DDA, all of those are beginning to come together. The best news we have is we just, in the last 2 weeks, completed collecting bids. We do have Corey tonight from Avonmarsh. Corey Kando is going to be the project manager for this. And Corey can go into greater details on these bids, but I'm really happy to note that our initial estimates were approximately $4 million. The bids came in, and the recommended low bidder is Kalen Construction Company for $2.718 million. So significantly under engineer's estimate. Kalen is someone that we have ample experience working with, most recently with the reconstruction of Monroe Boulevard, with the reconstruction of Kalamazoo Street down by the Aylworth intersection. Kalen's very much a known entity, and we've been doing projects with them for the last couple of decades. So with that said, tonight you're being asked to consider a resolution which is a tentative award. And the reason that we have that word tentative in there is this is a multi-funding project, or multi-stooled project. So the legs on this stool come from a variety of different sources. Downtown Development Authority is providing for a portion of the debt service. MEDC is providing essentially $800,000 towards the streetscape improvements. The United States Department of Ag is providing $100,000 towards the overall project costs. Then we also have the former DEQ, now Eagle, is the state of Michigan through their Drinking Water Revolving Fund and their Sanitary Sewer Fund has two of the final elements helping to fund that overall project. We have tentative commitments from Eagle towards the sanitary and towards the drinking water. We are waiting for the state of Michigan's board to meet and finalize those loan agreements. So we're setting this up as a tentative award, waiting for final state of Michigan approval on the debt service. Now with that said, I do have Corey here. Corey, is there anything you'd like to add towards that summary?
I think you did a good job.
So Corey and his team are working hand in hand with, we have Mike Dopp, city engineer. Corey and Mike are working as a tag team on this to ensure that we are visiting local businesses, local residents, that they have a very clear understanding of what's coming. We're going to be working, as we did with William Street, as we did with Phoenix Street, to keep sidewalks open, to keep businesses open, to try and minimize the amount of heartache that comes along with this type of project. We're also going to be working very hard to ensure that the contractor stays closely aligned to that schedule. We want to be out of there by Memorial Day 2020. Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you have any questions for me or the project team, we'll happily answer them.
Sounds good. Why don't we start with public first, then we'll get council. Any public questions on this? Your downtown's about to get reconstructed again, but this is good stuff. No public questions. Any council questions? Mr. Reeser.
Just a comment. I think this
the property at 335 Center Street, HTS Direct that we just talked about, are all examples of this city being open to business and supporting businesses and supporting the improvements in our town, especially the downtown, but all over. So I hope it sends a signal to many new businesses that we are welcoming them, and the welcome mat is out for them. Thanks.
Well said. Anybody else?
One thing I thought that was well done with the Phoenix Street restoration was the communication effort. And I don't know if that was the city or the downtown development or a combination of both, but
Both.
it really, I thought, was good in letting people know within the community and outside the community that, yeah, even though you're going to see some construction, that things are still going to be open for business. So I would hope that we do something similar for this Center Street project.
One thing that we learned from Phoenix Street was the importance of just weekly contact. And something we did throughout that reconstruct was meeting every week at the bakery. Some weeks we would have 20 people, some weeks we would have no people show up. But tried to keep that weekly update of what's occurring over the last 7 days, what's going to be occurring over the upcoming 7 days. Corey and his team followed that lead, and as we did the North Shore reconstruct, as we did the Monroe Boulevard reconstruct, as we have done Black River Street and on, we've tried to continue doing what we call tailgate talks, trying to get the information out and face-to-face communication as well as weekly updates. And that is the plan for Center Street. We have yet to pick a location, but with North Shore Drive, Corey led a weekly talk, and I would guess we had at times 25 people show up. It was probably the best part of the week, just going out, take 20 minutes, and you could put out fires before they really started. So the intent with Center Street is to model that same approach.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, communication is always huge on these, and we do well. I mean, city staff does well, and engineering does well. I'd just say that the documents, all the bid documents, very well laid out. I just want to commend everybody for reading through them and looking at the detail. As best we can twist arms and encourage. I know Kalen's a large out-of-town contractor, but I know we lean on them to use locals when we can. I know we try to. I know they do use local subs, so just as best we can do that. We always like to see locals out there doing work.
Just two more points for the council's consideration. One is last Thursday night, the Planning Commission met in this room, and the Center Street plan that will be constructed was approved as part of their site plan review. And then lastly, just to give you an idea of that last leg of the funding sources, through the state revolving fund, the SRF will be tapped to the tune of $425,000. That's got a 2% interest rate spread over 20 years. Something that we've been aggressive about, and this has taken a couple of years to build to, but the SRF includes what's called principal loan forgiveness, essentially a grant. So we're planning to borrow $425,000 at a 2% interest rate. Through the principal forgiveness, we anticipate 75% of that loan, or approximately $318,000, will be forgiven at the time of completion. So this is one, I can't stress enough that the project team has really been, quote-unquote, shaking the tree, picking up sources from Department of Ag, from MEDC, and now from the state of Michigan. I think this is really coming together nicely. We did well on Phoenix Street. We did really well on William Street. We're doing better with Center.
Yeah, between that and the bid numbers, that's good stuff. So
Yeah, it really is.
we should be happy. Very good. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2019-36. If there's no other questions or comments, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Next, the City Council will be asked to consider a motion to approve the honorary naming of Captain Donahue Drive to be added to Water Street with appropriate signage to be placed.
I'd like, oh, I'm sorry.
Let's wait for a motion. Go ahead. Give me a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the city to consider a motion to approve the honorary name of Captain Donahue Drive to be added to Water Street with the appropriate signage to be placed.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will defer to our guest. If you would just
Pamela
kindly sit.
Chappell, born and raised here in South Haven. A few years ago, I was at the Maritime Museum, and I happened upon a captain's log for Captain Donahue. I had never heard of him. I didn't know who this was, but I became fascinated with what he wrote in his logs, and so I started to do research on this man. And the more I read about him, the more I thought, wow, this guy is amazing. And in fact, I was so impressed that I wrote a song about him. It's because I wanted people to know more about him. He was a Civil War hero and lost a leg in the Battle of the Wilderness. He was given the post of lighthouse keeper in South Haven as a reward for his service. He served for 35 years, and that was not an easy job. In those days, you had to go out at midnight and change the oil, sometimes chip the ice off the glass. When it was really, really bad and ice was, pouring over the pier, he was known to crawl out to the lighthouse holding a lantern between his teeth. He is known to have saved 15 people from drowning, and he was such a popular man. You have a sheet about this with you. He was such a popular man in his town that when he was awarded a silver medal by the United States government, the local residents thought that wasn't good enough, and they got him a gold one. Anyway, I just thought we need to recognize this man as a part of our history. And I thought if we could rename Water Street, which would be his territory, and it's kind of an innocuous name for a street anyway, I think that would be very appropriate. I know it's been recommended that it was an honorary name change, so it would be Water Street and Captain Donahue Drive, which I think is just fine. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for all of your research and bringing that to us. Very well done. All right. We have a motion, a second. Are there any other public questions or comments on the name? Council comments? All right. We have a motion and a second to approve honorarily naming Captain Donahue Drive. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved.
Can I say one more thing?
Come on up.
I'm sorry, I should have mentioned
Oh, you're
this earlier,
good.
but I think it would be really great if we could somehow incorporate this into our sesquicentennial celebration, somewhere along the line.
Well, we will figure out how to make that happen. Thank you very much. Thanks again. Very good. Next, we have consideration of approval of Resolution 2016-37, a resolution granting local approval to Los Ranchos LLC. Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, 2019-37. Sorry, that was a typo. Sorry, to Los Ranchos LLC at 237 Broadway Street for a new on-premise redevelopment liquor license.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2019-37, a resolution granting local approval to Los Ranchos LLC at 237 Broadway Street for a new on-premises redevelopment liquor license.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Brian, just want to fill us in?
Sure. So members of council, this address should look familiar at the June 17th meeting of the council. The council approved a three-way agreement between the owner of the building, the synagogue, and the city of South Haven. As part of that agreement, the synagogue formally accepted a willingness to endorse the Michigan Liquor Control Commission's consideration of a liquor license for 237 Broadway. The intent here is Mr. Randy Locker and his company, Locker & Locker, are redeveloping the former Save-A-Lot building. As part of that, they'll be divvying up the overall building into multiple commercial spaces. The front space nearest Broadway will be a Mexican restaurant operating under the name Los Ranchos LLC. The next step for that restaurant is they'll be applying to the LLC to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, or LCC, to acquire a liquor license which will allow them to have beverage service as part of the restaurant. This is not the traditional Class C liquor license. This is a redevelopment liquor license. It's a program that the Liquor Control Commission created a number of years ago. With a redevelopment liquor license, The tool is intended to try and encourage redevelopment of quote-unquote blighted properties. So properties that are located within our central business district and fall under the somewhat subjective term blighted are eligible for consideration. The City Council has awarded less than 6 of these redevelopment liquor licenses. A very high threshold was placed at the time that these were originally considered. We have several dozen that could still be awarded if needed. The strings that are attached to the redevelopment liquor license is this is non-transferable. If for some reason 237 Broadway were to close, the risk that the restaurant and Mr. Lacker take on is they can't transfer it as you can a typical Class C license. Typical license, you can place into an escrow, and it can move throughout the county. A typical license does have a significantly higher price to acquire. So the risk is you can't move it. The upside is that it's about half the cost of a typical Class C. This is a tool that the city reserves. This is nothing that the city will see any profit on the sale of that liquor license, but it will help the restaurant move forward with their food and beverage service, and should help get this restaurant open at a relatively early date. With all of that said, in awarding this, please know that you are making it easier for the restaurant to go after a license that is cheaper than a typical Class C liquor license. So that is the downside on this. If there are locals who have a Class C that they wish to sell, you are creating competition or allowing competition. The state of Michigan created this program. The City Council is simply using that tool. Mr. Mayor, members of council will happily answer any questions.
I have one question, and that is, because the address is defined as 237, are we basically granting permission for any other business at 237 Broadway to apply?
No. Any additional applications would have to come back to council. This ultimately is going to be assigned a suite name. I have spent a lot of time on the phone with Mr. Locker just expressing concerns about having Los Ranchos as the named party. If for any reason Los Ranchos goes out of business, I want to make sure that he understands he's taken on some risk, that license is now defunct. It can't move. So
we're granting basically Los Ranchos only, period?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other council comments? Don't see any. Any public questions or comments on this one? Guess I'll just say again, nice to see the building getting redeveloped. It was empty for so many years. This is now at least 2 businesses in there, so good.
Yep.
I'm happy to see it being redeveloped. So we have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2019-37. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It is approved. Next, citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda, and if you'd like to come on up, state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Unless you're Gail, you can have 6 minutes.
Gail Patterson Gladney, and I'm here representing the Van Buren County. I just want to let you know about the Health Department ISD grant. Commissioners approved a one-time allocation of $1.25 million to the Van Buren Cass District Health Department in support of the Van Buren ISD collaboration to provide an innovative and unique environment for learning. A 20,000 square foot addition to the ISD campus will provide space for dental, public health, nursing, environmental health, and emergency preparedness service education. And this project is the first of its kind in the state, and it's a collaboration venture between the state of Michigan, Van Buren County, the ISD, and the Health Department. And other people in the state are going to be looking at what happens here, so hopefully it will be a good model. The Veterans Health Care, and I have talked to you before and given you information about honorably discharged veterans in our area. Van Buren County and their dependents are eligible for dental care, inoculations, hearing, and vision care with a limit of $1,000 per person. And I had mentioned that people could contact Kyrie Kraus, but they said now you can also contact the Health Department, and that number is 621-3143, extension 1336. I'll give this information to Travis. Also, the Van Buren County Veterans Office is going to have an open house, and that's going to be August 5th, 12 to 7, and that's in Paw Paw, 219 East Paw Paw Street. And so we're welcoming all of the Van Buren County veterans to the grand opening, and they are to bring their DD 214 and proof that they live in the county, and there's free giveaways. Also, they can sign up for appointments so that they can find out what services are available to them. And so I'm going to give this to you, also a flyer here. And today I went to an open house for Campus for Creative Aging. It is part of the AAA Area Agency on Aging. The board had helped to purchase, it was a former bank right next to the campus where AAA building was, and so they remodeled that. They made it into a special place for seniors to improve their education. There's computer training, workshops, discussion groups, lectures. There are special events. They have a senior citizen choir made of anyone in the area who wants to go and join that choir. So there are a lot of things that are available there. There is a cost for the computer training, but they do have scholarships. And over the years, I've been telling people about the computer training because, as you know, I work at the library, and we have a lot of senior citizens who come and need lots of help. But this is a special factor that they have grants. And I think that will help a lot of seniors who can't afford the cost. So I'm going to give this packet to you, too. And does anyone have any questions? Nope? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Going once, going twice. All right. Police chief's update. Miss Natalie. Brought a lot of helpers tonight.
I do. We're well protected.
Good.
Thank you. So I wanted to start with an update from July 3rd. The past 3rd went well with no significant issues. There were no arrests made on the beaches, and about 12 alcohol tickets were written citywide, along with parking violations. We had assistance from 96 officers this year from the Michigan State Police, the Van Buren County Sheriff's Department, Allegan and Berrien County Sheriff's Departments, Bangor Police Department, Covert Township Police Department, and the Gun Lake Casino Tribal Police allowed us to use their command center this year in North Beach. It worked well. The security staff again manned the entry points onto North Beach, as well as guarding the pier safety radius. So all went well. I always compare notes with Sheriff Bailey down in Berrien County, and they changed their fireworks to July 3rd also this year, and he agreed that having some of the lakeshore area displays on the same night seems to even out the numbers a bit of those attending. So luckily, they had no significant problems either, as they had in the past. Silver Beach, Baroda, and Niles are some of the areas south of us that all had events on the 3rd. So worked this year, so see if we can continue. The last thing I just want to speak about on that topic, I've received a bit of criticism, and I think I've been misquoted recently when I'm talking about July 3rd. Certainly, the police department responded to many calls for service. You know, I've never said we had no problems, no issues. My point of reference, unfortunately, goes back to 2016. It's probably one of the most violent, worst nights of my career in 27 years here. So just so when I'm speaking about July 3rd, if everyone knows the perspective, it's from a police safety, life safety point of view, but I am certainly not trying to minimize any of the other issues or complaints that were called in. So I just felt the need to clarify that. And also, you know, even as of recently this year, a lot of communities have reached out to South Haven to say, hey, you know, what's your secret or what are you doing on the beaches? And, you know, still Grand Haven, I think, had some issues this year. So I'd like to say we're doing a pretty good job compared to what we had a few years ago. But I'm certainly not trying to minimize any other issues because we were very busy that day. And finally, I have an officer here, Officer Van Brussel. I have an award to present. And, you know, interestingly, this year so far, I believe this is my 5th life-saving award, which in the past, I mean, I can remember maybe 1 or 2 every few years, but Kevin, Officer Van Brussel, I think represents the excellent training, the equipment and resources we have available, and their excellent job of really prioritizing and getting to these serious medical calls very promptly. So having said that, I'm going to read the award certificate. On June 27th, 2019, at approximately 11:30 p.m., Officer Kevin Van Brussel, Officer Lucas Keene, and Officer Tony Bailey were dispatched to the South Municipal Marina on Water Street for a medical call of a man suffering a possible heart attack. Officer Van Brussel had just gone off duty. However, when he heard the call go out, he responded from his residence, still in his patrol vehicle, and went directly to the scene. He arrived within 4 minutes of the dispatch, and upon his arrival was led down to the victim at the marina. Officer Van Brussel, in a pretty hectic scene, immediately began CPR on the victim and continued this until Shays and medical staff arrived. In cardiac medical emergencies, every second counts. The victim was transported for further treatment and as of today is living and has survived. Officer Kevin Van Brussel represents the South Haven Police Department well. His exceptional professionalism, skills, and dedication to serving and protecting the community are to be recognized. Therefore, Officer Kevin Van Brussel is to be commended and thereby awarded the South Haven Police Department's life-saving ribbon. And finally, after that, so a word that I remember, I think from the police academy, is called omnipresent. And I really wish that our police department could be omnipresent because there are a lot of calls for service that come in, and I wish there were 50 more of us to be everywhere all at the same time. However, we are constantly prioritizing, and it starts from staffing, resource allocation, and then on a daily basis when calls go out. So I like for everyone to recognize that that is really what we do is prioritize, and it's never to make anyone feel that their issue is not important, but life safety is always going to take priority over any property or public peace or nuisance issues. And with the officers we have working, we've had several life-saving incidents, and their response times are consistently within 3 or 4 minutes. So I just think that's important to point out.
We have a lot of amazing officers, and they have a great
Certainly.
leader, which is part of the equation. So thank you for all of your work, officers. Thank you for everything. And I will say, I have heard nothing but positive about July the 3rd. A lot of very positive comments about the police officers, everybody involved, staff. It was organized. It was picked up, cleaned up. It was fantastic from start to finish. So that's all I've heard. So well done.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. City manager's comments.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just to follow up on the mayor's comment about the actual cleanup. More than happy to brag about the excellent service provided by the police chief and her department. Extremely happy with the excellent service provided by South Haven Area Emergency Services. And then this year, for a decade, actually more than a decade now, my July 4th has started between 5:30 and 6, bringing donuts to the cleanup crew. And this year, the mayor decided he wanted to help me, and I was disappointed. The cleanup crew was done at 6:01 when we were attempting to hand out donuts. They had already wrapped, so they start their day at 2 a.m., and for a decade, I've been able to catch them at 6 when the bakery opens and I go and deliver the donuts. This year, they ate their donuts on the 5th. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you for spending some time with me. I know
Hey, it's all good.
you spent time with the first responders working the night of the 3rd. I'm sorry you didn't get to deliver donuts.
It's all good. It's all good. I'm glad they were done early.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, at the conclusion of tonight's meeting, we will be asking for a closed session. I'll be recommending that the council adjourn at some point toward that closed session. It'll just take a few minutes, but no action will be sought for tonight's meeting. Those are my comments, sir.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Councilperson comments. Oh, I start on the left tonight. Ms. Letitia.
I don't have any comments tonight.
Very good.
No comments.
Round we go.
Just this week is supposed to be one of the hottest weeks this summer, so I just want to do a shout out to Bill Hunter and all the people that help keep the lights and especially air conditioners on, and encourage everyone to help keep an eye out for friends and neighbors, and in case someone might be getting a little heat stress action going on there. That's all I have.
Good thought. Joe.
I'd like to say to the people of South Haven and surrounding communities how proud I am to be a resident here, and how proud I am for all the people that came out Friday night for Lights of Liberty. It was an event just to honor people less fortunate than us, immigrants and refugees that are suffering around the world and suffering in our below on our border. It was a non-political event. Never did this thing become he, she, he said, whatever. It was just a positive event, talking positively about helping people, and I couldn't be more prouder to be part of it and be part of this community. I think everyone deserves a hand that was there, and it was over 225 people. It's a good event. Thanks.
Thank you very much. After my comments, as Brian mentioned, we will be going into a closed session. So after that, that will end this meeting, and that will end our televised part. We will then go into closed session for a bit, and we will return after that to actually close the meeting. But at the end of, once we make that motion, we will end the meeting and end the public broadcast. So just so you're aware. I really just, comments are, again, thanks, chief, staff, our police officers, everybody, for jobs well done every single day. You're just a lot of amazing individuals. Exciting news with all the redevelopment from Kalamazoo Street to Center Street. You know, I think residents should be excited about what you're seeing happening in town. You're seeing investment, you're seeing improvement, you're seeing streets get fixed. Mr. DeSetz is currently under instruction, so good stuff. And then just finally, on behalf of the City Council, I would like to express my condolences to the family of the young person that was lost at our beach this past weekend. It's a terrible tragedy, and I can't imagine how difficult this must be for the family. Additionally, I just wanted to recognize our first responders that worked the scene and attempted to save this young boy's life. You know, our officers at the police department and Shays have an incredibly difficult job, and they continue to demonstrate courage and professionalism every single day. And finally, I just want to again thank the chief, both Ron and Natalie, just for their work, their dedication to their departments, to the visitors, to our residents. Every single day they bring their best, and I'm grateful every day that you are out there doing what you do. So when I pick up that phone, I know you're going to come and rescue me. So thank you for what you guys do. So on that note, City Council will be asked to consider a motion to go into a closed session pursuant to the Michigan Open Meetings Act, Public Act Number 267 of 1978, 15.268, Section 8A, to discuss a confidential attorney-client memo regarding a request to release a deed restriction on a parcel of real property.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, and this is a roll call.
Reeser,
Here.
Schlock,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes. So at this time, we'll go into closed session. Why don't we take 5 minutes? And again, thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. And this will end our public broadcast.